Don't want to be poor? Get a job, they say. Well, what about all of the people working full-time who still need food stamps to get food, or who are homeless while working? A reality all too common in today's America. My name is Brittany Page, and this is the Page Perspective. So they do get a job. They do have a job. And yet, that job doesn't pay enough to ensure that they can feed their families or keep a roof over their heads. Who do we blame for that? The individual or the corporations that refuse to pay a living wage to their employees while accepting government subsidies in the form of the government providing supplemental assistance to individuals to make up for the wages these corporations refuse to pay? And I invite you, after watching this video, to adjust your thinking away from viewing an individual and their perceived personal failings and look toward the systems that are failing individuals instead. And I have some really clear and direct examples for you today. This first one comes from this new Boston Globe reporting from Katie Johnston. Quote, "The government is subsidizing corporate profits. Who employs the most SNAP recipients in Massachusetts? The majority of working age people on food stamps have jobs, but the wages don't add up. And more attempts to limit eligibility are on the horizon." And before we get into this, I want you to guess. Just guess, which companies do you think employ the highest number of SNAP recipients? You can just think of your guess, you can comment your guess, and then follow up with another comment about whether you were wrong or right, but I'm sure that you can guess at least one of them. Amazon. Quote, "At a time when the food stamp system is under fire and more strict work requirements are starting to kick in, a Globe review of companies with the most SNAP recipients in the state shows many are employed by high-profile companies in retail, healthcare, and the gig economy. Nearly 2,500 work for Amazon and another 2,300 work for Walmart. Uber, DoorDash, and Tempest Unlimited, a Staunton developmental disabilities provider, each have more than 1,400 workers who rely on food stamps, according to data obtained from the State Department of Transitional Assistance, which administers the federal program." And then there's a chart here showing the companies employing the most SNAP recipients. And I know this is just Massachusetts, but we're going to get to national data in a moment. Continuing, quote, "Healthcare and retail industries account for nearly a third of Massachusetts workers getting SNAP benefits," the UMass study found. 1 in 3 home health aides and personal care attendants, 2 of the fastest growing jobs in the state, are SNAP recipients, as are 1 in 5 cashiers, janitors, agricultural workers, nursing assistants, and cooks. Quote, "Many employers have a low-wage model that is more profitable by paying workers low wages," said Nathan Myers, co-author of the report and a fellow at UMass Amherst Labor Center. "Companies are shifting the burden off themselves," he added. Quote, "The government is subsidizing corporate profits." And I'm going to link to this study as well as the Boston Globe article, as I do all of my references, in the description below so that you can see these for yourself. And of course, we know the Trump administration is preparing to expand work requirements for SNAP with this ongoing propaganda campaign designed to sell us on the idea of lazy poor people who just love to mooch off the government, when the reality is many are working and working and working and trying their best to stay above water, while their employers benefit from keeping them in low-wage jobs. And for those of us who have worked in these low-wage jobs, we know the tricks these companies will pull to avoid paying you what you're worth, keeping you below a certain number of hours so that you don't get paid time off, paid sick leave, access to benefits. I saw an example of this recently from former guest on this program, Brian Goldstone, who wrote during the Thanksgiving holiday week, quote, "If the Atlanta airport is rough for travelers, it's even worse for many of the workers. One of the people in my book, Cass, works the graveyard shift, mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms. She's kept it 29 hours a week because 30, and she'd qualify for health insurance and sick leave." The book he's referring to is, of course, There Is No Place for Us, Working and Homeless in America. But I said that we would look beyond Massachusetts, because this is actually a problem across the country. It is not unique to Massachusetts. Just look at this report from October 2020 from the United States Government Accountability Office. Federal social safety net programs, millions of full-time workers rely on federal healthcare and food assistance programs. Quote, millions of wage-earning adults enrolled in Medicaid or living in households that received SNAP food assistance shared common labor characteristics, including working predominantly for private sector employers, mostly working full-time work schedules, and being highly concentrated in 5 industries and occupations. An estimated 12 million wage-earning adults enrolled in Medicaid and 9 million wage-earning adults living in households receiving SNAP benefits at some point in 2018 worked, according to program participation data. Wage-earning adult Medicaid enrollees and SNAP recipients were more likely than wage earners who did not participate in the programs to work in the private sector, work in the leisure and hospitality industry, and work in the food service and food preparation occupations. In the cases of people who ended up working part-time while receiving benefits, there are reasons for that too. Quote, uneven work schedules or unfavorable business conditions, an inability to find full-time work or seasonal declines in demand. BLS survey data also showed that these individuals would have preferred full-time employment, but worked part-time because they were unable to find full-time work or their employers had reduced their hours. As we've already talked about in Brian Goldstone's example, right? And just like in the UMass study, you'll find Amazon mentioned 11 times in this government report, highlighting repeatedly as one of the largest employers of people on government assistance. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, is making headlines right now for his end-of-year charitable giving, including to organizations here in DC working to address the homelessness crisis. And many people have praised Jeff Bezos for his generosity, but all that falls a little flat after seeing this. No? He could just pay his employees a living wage and stop looking to the government to subsidize Amazon's corporate profits. Maybe we'd have less of a need for charitable giving if he, 1, paid his employees a living wage, 2, gave them the appropriate amount of hours to ensure that they can pay their bills for food and keep a roof over their heads, or 3, make sure he's, paying his taxes. All the while, by the way, Donald Trump is threatening to withhold funding for administering SNAP in blue states unless they turn over sensitive data to the federal government, all in his continued effort to demonize immigrants as the source of our problems. When we know better, right? At least I hope, if you're watching this, I hope that you do. If Donald Trump was actually worried about fraud, waste, and abuse, he'd look at all the many things like his gaudy new Oval Office, his multi-million-dollar ballroom renovation, maybe not pardoning private equity fraudsters who defrauded thousands of people in a $1.6 billion scheme, erasing the ability of the government to get back $15.5 million in forfeitures. Immigrants are not the source of the affordability crisis. Immigrants are not to blame for the increasing inflation and cost of living and stagnant wages. Donald Trump and a government filled with elites who do favors for their fellow elites and engage in endless self-dealing are causing these problems. And it's important that we challenge their propaganda whenever and wherever we see it. So share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Now is your chance to share your thoughts in the comments below, or call and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail at 202-656-1509, or send an email to info@thepageperspective.com. You can support the work that I do by becoming a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month, just by clicking the join button below or going to patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast. And if you can't support me financially, but wish you could, no worries at all. You can subscribe for free by clicking the subscribe button below or sharing this video with a friend. That helps me a lot too. Follow me on social media at Brittany E. Page, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. As always, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.